Hi, guys. Welcome to the All Things Running podcast. It's Jacob here, and today I sit down and talk with Patrick Lister, who I was fortunate enough to coach through a 16-week training block for the Pocono Mountains Marathon, which at this point happened about 3 weeks back, maybe a month actually. It was a pleasure to coach him. It was really fun to coach someone who, prior to this, had no experience in really doing big workouts or anything like that. He would throw some marathon pace work in his long runs in past marathon buildups, but he had never really done thresholds or anything like that. So it was super cool to be able to coach him, take that opportunity to really see some big growth. And he PR'd by over a minute, so I would say that was significant improvement, and a lot went wrong in that race. So we're really excited to see what he can do in the future. But nonetheless, there was a lot of good that came out of the training block, and so we talk about that as well as our takeaways, and then we also talk about the future and what we have planned for him. So this one's similar to my chat with Zach Case in that it's more of a coaching call. So if you like that sort of thing, if you want to be a coach one day and you want to see how that kind of works, that coach athlete relationship, this could be a really good one for you to listen to. So, having said that, guys, I hope you enjoy the podcast. And if you did, give my podcast 5 stars on Spotify. I'd really appreciate that. Share it around, put it on your Instagram. This is how they get listens, is by spreading your word on Instagram. So, I hope you guys enjoy, and I'll see you in the next one. Right back.
Yo, man, what's happening?
Oh, there we go. Can you hear you? Can't
Yeah,
see it quite yet.
can't see
Um,
me yet. Oh, hold on.
there we go. Now I can see you. You in the clinic?
Yeah, in the clinic.
Nice. Is anyone else there, or is everyone kind of
Nah,
dormant today?
nah. I come in my one clinic in Marietta. I come in there usually at 7, and we don't have patients till 10. So I just kind of quiet
Okay.
time and get stuff done.
That's nice. That's nice, man. How
Yeah,
are,
so
how are you feeling? How's the body? How's the legs?
doing pretty good, man. I think the first couple days I felt like this normal soreness that we do after a marathon, but then kind of
Yeah.
just subsided. It felt pretty good.
Okay, good. Jeez, my
Yeah,
screen. What the heck is it doing right now? What in the heck?
it's all foggy.
Yeah, sometimes this camera does this. It's like a nice camera, but it occasionally gets like really out of focus. Let's just do a little. You like that profile pic, man? It's
Ah, it's cool.
Oh, there we go. Okay. I guess that's all it took was turning it back on and off. So it sounds like your body's feeling pretty good. Did you do any biking last week?
Nah, I didn't do anything, man. I just was like,
Dude, that's
I was
fine,
enjoying
man.
it.
No,
I was enjoying.
I that's kind of what I wanted you to do anyway. And dude, I've been excited about this one because it's kind of going to be a little different from the last episodes I've had because it's more of like a coaching call, and we're going to talk through what we think we could do differently in the next block. Um, reflect back on the block, see what we could maybe tweak and what went well, what didn't, and all these things. So I think it'll be a good one, actually. Looking forward to it. Nonetheless, everyone, I'm talking to Patrick Lister right now. He was my physical therapist in when I was back in York. I think I went to him 2 or 3 times for like knee problems. And that's kind of how we got to know each other. And I think I forget exactly how I ended up coaching you. I think you mentioned how you wanted to run under 3:15 in the marathon at some point, and something I think I mentioned I could help you get there. And I think from there, that's kind of how it all came to be. So here we are.
Here we are.
Just finished. Patrick just finished the Pocono Mountains Marathon about 9, 10 days back at this point. Um,
Yep.
Ran 3:18:52, which you know wasn't the race we wanted. Obviously, we wanted under 3:15. I think we both knew your fitness was there for that, but he had some cramping early on, and I think it was still a good race. The fact that he PR'd by over a minute is still impressive because in 2021 he ran his last PR, which was 3:19:55. So still still about a minute 3 seconds there PR with all that went wrong in the second half. So and
Yeah.
we'll talk about that more later as well, but you also had a PR in the half marathon in the training block running 1:29:20 at the Harrisburg Half Marathon. So, I mean, there's a lot of good things to look at here. You still PR'd in both your big events. So, um, the year prior, I think your PR was something in the 130s. So yeah, that was kind of the background. Also, for the people listening, Patrick was a bodybuilder before he was a marathoner. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
you actually mentioned you were 230 pounds at one point,
yep,
which is kind of insane. And I do want to spend some time at the end just talking a little bit about your background in bodybuilding and how you ended up in this marathoning scene, because I think to a lot of people that could be an interesting thing to hear about.
yeah,
But
yeah,
the first thing I definitely want to talk about is obviously the training leading up to the race and the race itself. And then, we'll just talk about your race day experience. We'll talk through some other things, and then we'll talk through your future plans, and then close out with your bodybuilding background and how you got into running, and then we'll do a little fun section. So that's what I had planned for today. So first of all, I kind of want to hear you talk through Pocono Mountains Marathon, just to hear exactly what you did in that day, starting from when you woke up to when you finished your race and went back home.
yeah, yeah,
So
for sure.
yeah.
I could tell you that this marathon, even going into it, I was probably a little bit more stressed than I have been in my previous. This would be my fifth marathon, and I think a lot of that stress just simply came from really going all in a sense here with getting the training from you, Jacob, and I had a high expectations for myself and felt really great going into that marathon as far as my fitness. It was the best I ever felt. And so, you mentioned, I ran 318, but I really was expecting myself to get under 310 based on how I've been feeling. Um, I guess so going into it, and another factor with this too was it was my first time I ever did a marathon where I actually like stayed the night over somewhere. Usually I picked some places closer to home where I could just wake up extra early in the morning. I had my meals all prepped there, and it was just really convenient just to travel and get to the race and go. So this one we kind of took, my wife and I took as a little trip, just us two, because we have three little boys. So we kept them at home with grandma, and we went to the Poconos. And this time of year, for you guys don't know, here in the Northeast here, it's beautiful up there. The leaves are turning colors, and we kind of wanted to experience some of that. So going up to the Poconos, we left early on a Friday and got there to the resort we were staying at. And then I actually wanted to get a little running on the course that we ran. So it was at a state park, Promised Land State Park, around a huge lake. And it was beautiful, man. It was beautiful. And, I could tell as soon as I started doing that little like run on Friday, there's a bunch of hills. It was just, I don't think there was any flat. It was just rolling hills the whole time. But the scenery made up for it for sure. So kind of went there feeling good, feeling a little nervous. I was getting in my head a good amount.
Yes, you were.
And I was like texting Jacob like a couple weeks before. It's like, I was like, yo, man, like my foot, like I'm not feeling smooth with my running, and I feel like my foot's like just like dragging along. And he was like, dude, it's all in your head, man. It's all in your head. And I was like, whatever. And I had a couple runs in the mix where I was, feeling. I didn't really notice it, and then of course I'd get in my head again the next run and be like, oh my god, my foot's dragging. So it's just crazy what your mind does to you going up to the race, right?
Yeah.
So, got a little run in there when we got up there Friday, early afternoon. And we went back to the resort, and my wife and I just, whoop, sorry.
Forgot you're there, man. There we go.
Motion sensors.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my wife and I got there, and just we're like, let's grab some dinner. So we grabbed a nice dinner, and I think that was one of my mistakes. So I ate dinner a little bit too late. I think we ate dinner like after 7. Had to be after 7, and
Yeah.
I ate a good dinner too. Like I had a half of a chicken, and and I was like, I want to eat good. So I think that was my first mistake, which you referred back to the cramping and everything.
Yeah, 7's a little late because the race was also fairly early. You started at 7:30, right?
Yeah,
Roughly.
it
So
was at 7:30. Yeah.
yeah, normally like the day before marathon, it's better to eat like five to six range, 'cause you just want to eat really early so your stomach's like good for the race. But no, we'll continue. Yeah, we'll talk about this later.
Yeah, but so and then I went back to the place, and we just kind of hung out. And actually, I'm a big Philly sports fan, so the Philadelphia Phillies were playing, and I got to see them win their game there on TV. Then I just kind of went in for the night, went to bed. And I didn't even tell Jacob this, but another thing that happened, I think that it's just kind of like a little thing that kind of threw you off just a little bit. As I set my alarm for 5 a.m. and for some reason my alarm was set for like in a really low
Volume.
down the volume, yeah.
Yeah.
And my wife woke up like at 5:30. I was like, hey, don't you want to get up? I was like, oh my gosh, yes. And it wasn't a big deal because we were really close, but I wanted to get up that early so I could start to get some food in me.
Right.
So I think that was another part that kind of led to this, this stomach issue, cramping going in there. Like I ate a little bit too close.
Yeah.
And then I really wanted to make sure I was charged up. So I made sure I prepare myself some like sausage and eggs before the race, and I had like just a couple little waffles. I put jelly on them, and I shouldn't have done it. It was a little bit too much fat and grease.
Yeah.
But again, I was in my head. I was like, I need to be prepared. I need to have the energy. I need to whatever.
And we talked about that beforehand too. I remember you talked to me about a week prior. We wanted to make sure we had everything down and knew you were doing things right. So I remember texting you, and you mentioned how you used to have waffles, and you had waffles and jelly in the past, and it works for you. So I was like, okay, cool. And then you mentioned the bacon and eggs, and I was like, oh, okay. I'm like, that's kind of a lot. And then, but then I was like, okay, but has this worked for you in the past? Because I didn't really want to tweak with too much in this training block. We've already thrown you so much new stuff. I was like, okay,
Yeah.
let's try to keep some variables the same. So I was like, okay, if this is working for him, and you made it sound like it worked for you in the past, so I was like, okay, you know what? Maybe not. Maybe don't do bacon. And then you did sausage. Uh,
Yeah.
but
Yep.
no, but anyways, like I just wanted to let people know that like we did talk about this. It wasn't like I didn't. It's not like I didn't know you were gonna do that.
Yeah.
But
And props to you, Jacob, because I'm kind of rolling with it and listen to the athlete's perspective in your coaching too. Um, and as I reflected, I was talking to my wife after the race too. Go back to the food topic, and she was like, "Yeah, I don't know why you did that. That was kind of dumb." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And she's like, "I think like the last like marathons you did, you just had like a protein shake and you ate like maybe like a breakfast bar. Then before the race, you had like some like sports drink or something." She's like, "I think that's all you did." And I, leave it to the wife or the lady to remember things, because I simply don't. But as she started talking about that, I was like, crap, you're right. I did. So yeah, I ate way too much. And, the night before, the morning of,
yeah,
and then leading up to the race, like my body felt good. I felt like mentally prepared. When we got there, I was ready. But I think another mistake is I still kind of felt like a little blah, and I felt like I could have went to the bathroom, but I didn't. I was like, I'm good. And I should have just kind of, how it is in the lines before a race. I should have just been
yeah.
like, I'm just going to stay in this line a little bit and try to go to the bathroom, but I didn't. I kind of just, so I was kind of leading up to the race.
Yeah. Yeah. And did you end up having a protein shake too before the race, or did you not do
Nah,
the protein shake?
I didn't do the protein shake. I had what I spoke of, and then like probably like 10, 15 minutes before the race started, I sipped on a sports drink a little bit.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So yeah, obviously we know in the future what to not do before a marathon like that. So at the
Yep.
very least, we learned some valuable lessons, and in the future, I think we could definitely be a little more cautious about the nutrition aspect, and just keep just less food on race day is always a safe bet. I think.
Yeah.
I think. But anyways, tell me about the race itself for you.
The race was great. Like, I definitely, as I'm running, just in my training runs, I always kind of like talk to myself in my mind of like, what percent am I pushing right now? And I like to try to really gauge my perceived exertion just so I know during a race what I'm doing. And so my goal to going out was like, I wanted to, kind of progress into starting at like 7:30 pace. If I got into the 7:20 and just kind of work my way down as I went. But as soon as you start off, you know how it goes. The first mile, I was like, I got to hold myself back because everybody's going. So I told
Yeah.
myself back, and I was going a little bit too fast. I think I'm at first mile might have been like 7, I don't know, 10, 15. And I was like, all right, I need to back down. I need to keep it like at 50%. And
Mhm.
still, that was like too much. I was like 7:15 pace. I was like, all right, I need to stay at 40% exertion. And I kind of like hit that sweet spot at 40%. And I kept like telling myself, I'm like, yeah, I feel like I'm at 40% right now. And I was running, like in the 7:20s, even sub 7:20. So from mile 1 to 5, I was like, all right, this is going to be good. And this was
Yeah.
a small race, and I knew there was 2 or 3 guys ahead of me in the beginning, but I knew I was like, yeah, like I'm just they're fine. I'm gonna let them go. If I'm only pushing 40% right now, like I'm gonna get them on the back end for sure.
Mm.
Um, so I felt really good, man, and it felt really easy. And probably not until mile 8, and I felt like myself like, oh man, I gotta go to the bathroom. Like I really gotta go. And I was like, So I was like, I'm good. I gotta keep pushing, man, and it will go away. And so I kept pushing. I was like, I kept trying to be positive. All right, all right. And then I started to like think in my head. I was like, we're in the woods, right, around the state park. I was like, do I just like pop up in the woods like a bear
Yeah.
or something?
Yeah.
And I was close to doing it, right? And then I'm getting so this was a double loop course, and we're getting to the halfway point, mile 13, and I'm still feeling pretty good. And I was going to stop at halfway, and I was like, I got to keep the momentum going. I just got to hold it. I got a halfway. I can hold it another halfway. What a mistake. Once I
Oh.
hit like 14, 15, I was like, I'm going to explode. And luckily there was
Jeez.
a turnoff point. There was a little like loop section where you had to kind of turn off into, and it was like a campground area, and they had some
Yeah.
outdoor restrooms. And I bolted in the restroom really quick. There it goes again.
Just gonna keep going on. There we go.
Yeah. So I bolted in the restroom really quick and went to the bathroom, and it had only took me like 30 seconds. I was like, I'm good. I'm good. Went out, bam, like immediately, like one of the worst side stitches I ever had, like 9 out of 10
Oh,
pain. And it was like one of them ones where you're trying to breathe, and it's just like,
hmm.
oh, it hurts.
Yeah.
And usually that works out. Usually you're like, all right, I just got to keep pushing, and in like 10 minutes or so it will work out. This didn't. So I'm going to say from like mile 16 to mile 26, like that was there. And I kept telling myself I got to push, and I literally couldn't exert more than like 50%. And it was killing me. And I just was like, I was like praying. I was like, God, just get me through this. And I was thinking in my head, I was like, dang, my wife came all the way here, my mother-in-laws, my kids, and Jacob was kind like Jacob. So all you guys out there listening to this, Jacob's been my coach. We don't live really close together. He lives like an hour and a half from me, maybe 2 hours. But he surprised me, and he came to my race, and he was there,
Heck
and I
yeah.
saw him. And at first, I didn't know who. I was like, he was cheering for me. I was like looking behind me. I was like, who's this guy cheering to? And when I got close to him, I was like, oh my gosh. And so I kept telling myself, I was like, Jacob's there, my wife's here. Like if I stop, like I'm letting them down. And so props to Jacob for just being there because he kept me going. Um, um, so yeah, kept pushing, and I have a type of personality too. Like I'm not gonna stop. I mean, even if it kills me, but I was this close, man, to just saying I'm done. Like it hurt that bad.
Yeah.
But as I kept going, it got a little easier. It started to subside a little bit, and then once you get to that mile 20 mark, no matter how much pain you're in, it's like all right, like the end in sight. So that kind of just kept me pushing, and I
Yeah.
was actually able to pass a couple guys in the last two, kind of like I guess bonked out or more messed
Yeah.
up than I was. So I left I got to the finish line, and I felt like I didn't give it everything I had because I simply couldn't. But I
Mhm.
looked down at my watch, and I was like, oh my gosh, like I still even did better than what I did my previous PR. And I remember that race a year ago, and I was like pushing everything I had to get that number. And
Yeah.
so I left disappointed, but I left at the same time feeling like, wow, like I was fit because I was in a lot of pain. And I was telling people this, like, this was probably my hardest marathon, but my easiest, which is really strange. The hardest
Mhm.
because what I was dealing with, but the easiest because my body didn't feel destroyed. Like my cardio felt good, my legs felt
Mm.
good. Um, still, it kind of left a lot open for me, and it gives me hope
Mhm.
for the next one. I know I'm gonna kill it.
Absolutely, man. I mean, I think there's like so much that we can take away from this one, and largely around your race day nutrition, really, and the day before. I think like even if we only did things to address those two things, you would drastically improve on race day with that fitness you had coming in. So, and obviously, I'm going to change some other things as well that I wanted to talk about because I had some thoughts on how to approach training in the future to try to get you turning over a little bit. Um,
Yep.
so overall, though, yeah, I mean, like from my perspective, I was ecstatic about your race for not ecstatic. That's not the right word, but I was very impressed that you still came through with the PR with everything that you just talked about happening with the cramps and the digestive issues and all of that.
Yeah.
So to come away with over a minute PR with all of that is definitely like a clear sign that you were very fit and like ready to rip. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
I think going forward we can be. I know I mentioned this to you before, but we can be more ambitious. I think with the goals we set for you because yes, sub 315 was the goal prior to this race, but I feel like we can do like 305 or like 306. I really do think that like we could shoot big for goals like that in the future. And we have this whole off season here over the winter for you to just get strong. And you said you were going to work on some strength work, so we can build you up strong and hit some speed workouts that'll get you tailored more towards the 10K and 5K distances. And with that, it'll make your marathon efforts feel easier because you'll be have a bigger range of time between your fastest and your slowest paces. So that was my thought process. Um, we'll talk about that a little later as well. I still want to talk a little bit more about the race. So
Yeah.
you kind of hit it in the head in terms of, um, the pacing. Your pacing was good. Like I liked what you did in the first half, sticking around 40%. Like that's honestly like almost too conservative, I would say. But like I think
Yeah.
it would have set you up really well for the second half, to say the least. And um, yeah, you said you're going around 715 a mile, 40% effort, which is a great sign because I think sub 315 is around that pace, right? Or is it? I think it's a little slower, like 720 a mile or something.
Yeah. It's in the
Um,
20s.
yeah,
Yep.
but I think you already talked about this pre-race. We could just eat a little bit less all around, less fat.
Yeah.
The carb loading, I think we did too much of for you, just because in the past your diet you work well with like some fat as well.
Yep.
Um, so in the future, I would probably only tell you to start carb loading 4 days out instead of like 7 or 8. Um, so that's one thing that I thought about that you don't really need to do it 7 days out anyway. Like I listened to some like research on it. I read some research on it. Like you really only need it 4 or 5 days out for it to have like benefits. So we can just start it like later and also not do as many carbs, just like adding only like one additional set of carbs in your day from like what you were already eating instead of like what you probably did, which is maybe like adding two things to get more carbs
Yep.
in your day. So that was my one thought, and obviously have some fat as well during that carb loading period. Um, and then in terms of water before the race, how much water did you have, just out of curiosity?
Before the race, I probably just. I mean, I had a coffee, and I probably just had like 20 ounces of water.
20 ounces of water. Okay, yeah. I would say like 32 ounces is a good goal to shoot for, like
Okay.
for before a race. At least 24, I would say. But I mean, 20 is not bad. Like at least you got some water in you. So I can't be mad about that. And during the race, how many gels did you end up taking, like with the cramping and all that?
Yeah. Yeah. So I did the. Let me think here. I think I only did 4 because I was doing them every half hour, and
Okay.
then I got the cramping,
Mhm.
and like right after I went to the bathroom and I came out, like I was due for another gel, and I took one, and I
Mhm.
felt like it made the cramping worse. And it was just one of those things. I knew if I intaked anything else, it was just going to make it worse. So I
Yeah.
didn't even. Yeah. So I mean, yet another thing which kind of tells me, um, as I went through this, like, my nutrition wasn't even on point during the race because it couldn't have been,
Yeah.
else I would have been feeling worse. So I think there's just a lot of, that's what I keep going back. The 5 days after the race, I was thinking, oh my God, I missed the mark so much. And as I'm sitting here now, like close to 10 days after the race, I'm feeling, oh my gosh, there's like this and this and this and this and this, like so many things that I could have like just hit a little better, and
Hmm.
which obviously would change the outcome dramatically, I think.
Hmm.
So.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't mean this to be like a bashing. I just think like it's really valuable to talk through, what went wrong in the last block because it can make you that much better.
Oh yeah.
So it's not by any mean like a roast. Everyone does stuff like this. Like everyone has problems with nutrition when they're marathoning. It's like totally normal. Everyone does it. So it's not just you. I'm sure other people have had a 5-course meal before their marathon. So
Yeah, yeah. That's how you learn, man. That's the beauty of the marathon. I think that's why I'm so hooked on it. Like it's my favorite distance, my favorite race, and it's just because there's so many complexities that
yeah.
need to be figured out. It's more than just saying, "Oh man, I've been training. I'm just going to go run."
Mm,
There's so much more to it, and
yeah.
that's what's really intriguing to me.
Yeah, it's one of the only like faster end races that you have to have nutrition. Like you even in a half marathon, you don't really need nutrition. You can do no gels and be just fine. But when you're doing that marathon distance, nutrition is a factor and it's like a very important factor and you can't mess it up. Um, Even if you're super fit, you can't go into race day and not have any nutrition. I mean, you can, but you'll probably bonk really early and have a rough time for like 8 miles.
Oh yeah, that happened to me before. My first marathon, I knew nothing. I just went out and ran, and I think I even. All right, so I was training for. I just got one of them basic plans online. I was running. I was like, I don't even know what I'm going to run. I don't know what pace I'm going to run. I'm just going to go and like complete it. I think I even ran. I know I even ran the marathon in a pair of Nike free run fly knits, which are like zero support.
Oh, geez.
I
Yeah,
know
those
I
things
had no
are
idea what I was doing. I didn't have
those
any energy. Yeah, I had no energy gels. I drank like I just stopped and got some water as I was running. And yeah, I remember like I hit mile like 18 and I was like walking the rest of the way. Yeah, it was terrible.
Oh, geez, man. Did you take water too with the gels? Like when you would take your gels, did you try to get water in afterwards at one of the stations?
Yeah, I took your advice with all that.
Okay.
You mentioned that try to stop and at least sip on like all the water, even if you don't intake it, just kind of put it in your mouth, spit it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I made sure I stopped, and I think the good thing about them SIS gels too is like you don't necessarily have to take water with them because they're water
Mhm.
based. So theoretically, they'll be better with your stomach. But yeah, I try to take water with them though.
Okay. Okay, cool. Just making sure. Cool. Yeah, I guess like in the future, if you're like having bad cramps, just like, and you'd probably know this, just don't take the gel because it's gonna just make things worse.
Yeah,
But I'm sure you know this now. Um, that can just put you deeper into the pain cave, really.
yeah,
It's hard though because obviously you want to take nutrition during a race, and especially in the later portions that they become more and more important that you're getting them in. Um, but sometimes it's better to not do it, especially if you're having 9 out of 10 pain from side cramping. So um, yeah, and then let's reflect a little bit on your training now that we've gone through the race. Um, what did you like and dislike about the training program? Like what were some things that you liked about it? And,
I liked a lot that I had some sort of structure because every other marathon I did, I just kind of printed something off online. I think I used like Hal Higdon's extra, marathon programs, and
mhm,
a couple of the races I use like the beginner. There's like beginner 1 and 2, intermediate one and
right.
two, and so I went through them and I used them. Um, but I didn't have a personal like coach. You know what I mean? And so with this training with you, Jacob, you were first of all your training plan was excellently planned. Like you had everything very detail oriented in an Excel spreadsheet, and so I could just look at it. And I really liked how you broke it up. It wasn't a certain mileage a day you had to do. You're like, this is expectation for the week, this is expectation for the long run, and this is the expectation for your workout. And then all them other runs, you just fit in whatever, however many distance you can. And I was able to like
Mhm,
really make it work with my week because I have a very busy work life. It takes a lot of my time. And then I
mhm.
got a very busy home life. I have three little kids, 6, 5, and 3. So yeah, I was able to be flexible with it.
Mm-hmm.
I really liked the. This is weird for me to say this, but I really like the bump in mileage. I think
Mm-hmm.
I looked at my last couple marathons I did before this one, and I think I averaged from the whole thing was like maybe like 33 miles a week, which is extremely low.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
this you had me most weeks. Once I got into it, I was close to 50, if not 50, like 40, 45 to 50, and then we got up
Yeah.
to 50, to 55 at one point.
Mm-hmm.
So I like that. It really showed me that wow, like this increase in mileage isn't going to kill you, and it made the runs feel easier in a way because I was getting more volume in. So it felt like, oh man, I'm going to run 8 miles. That's just like a easy run for me now.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
and I think I also like the integration of workouts. I never did any workouts ever. A workout for me would be all right, go run 5 miles at your goal marathon pace, which is extremely simple and not necessarily even a workout. Um, so these different threshold works, fartleks, tempo stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it was great. It was great to kind of start to learn because I always had in my mind, well, how you improve in the marathon, you just go run more, which
Yeah.
yeah, that's going to help you probably. Like that's probably one of the biggest things. If you can run a lot of miles a week, you're probably going to do better in a marathon. But there's a lot more complexities I'm starting to realize as far as the speed work, and I really enjoy just like destroying myself. So once I got warmed up, enough and got in that zone where I was able to just like push and push and push. Like I love working. I love walking. After workout, and be like, oh man, that was awesome.
Yeah.
Uh,
You're a grinder. That's one thing I picked up from this training block. You're a grinder for sure.
yeah,
You
well, thanks.
and sometimes I felt like I had to hold you back a little bit, just like make sure you're not doing anything too crazy. So I was
Yeah,
very I would tend to throw you more conservative paces, knowing that you might go faster than that.
yeah.
Just knowing you as an athlete, I think that's one thing too that you just have to learn over time. 'Cause obviously, this is the first block, so it was a lot of learning for me. But anyway, what were some things that were like that you didn't like about it? Whether that's just like the some of the workouts or anything like that. Was there anything in particular that you found
Uh,
to be uncomfortable with, or
I guess what let me think here. Usually I think it was like a 2 week, like a 2 or 3 week build up, and then like a 1 week off, like
okay?
reduction of the long run. So, and, there was a very large sequence I think of that of just like each week going up a mile,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
it was just something I wasn't used to, and it was wearing, but it was fine. I mean, I don't have an
Yeah.
issue with it now. I got used to it. And I think what I didn't like as well would be um, it's probably the workouts in general. Like just get like in the beginning, I definitely didn't like them. It was something I wasn't used to. Then by the end, I
Hmm.
I started to like see improvement as I was doing them. And you even made reference to one of my Strava posts. You're like, dude, look at like this kind of like similar run you did like 6 weeks ago. Then look at it. Look what you did today. And I was
Hmm.
kind of like, whoa, like I'm getting faster. This is working.
Yeah.
Uh, there's nothing particular that I didn't like, man. I love the way you checked in on me often, Jacob. You like reached out to me, text me how things going, and I liked how you outlined everything. I'm a very detail oriented person when it comes to planning things, so I was able to look ahead a couple weeks and see what my routine was going to be. I
Hmm.
was able to sit down on a Sunday afternoon and look at the week ahead and say, okay, I'm going to get this run in this day, this one this day. Um, yeah,
Cool. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's something I always try to do is like make sure it's detailed so you can, but also allowing it to be flexible because obviously your work schedule is very busy and you have a very busy life with your kids. So it's important to have some flexibility in when you're creating a training plan for someone such as yourself who's very, very busy. So that's why I like left the easy runs open-ended for you. Just because like some days you're not going to be able to get in as many miles as other days, and that's how it is. Um, so it would be ignorant of me to just say do the same amount of mileage every single day for your easy runs. Uh, so yeah, I think it works out well that way. And um, it was fun to coach you because I mean I was so excited to pick you up because you hadn't done any workouts in the past.
yep,
Like that's like a coaching freebie right there to pick up an athlete who hasn't done any workouts in the past for like marathons. I knew like even if I just threw you the most basic of workouts that you would make big fitness gains just because even one workout a week added in is gonna do big things to your fitness.
Yeah.
Um, so that's one reason why I was excited. I was like, if he's running 319 now without any like real proper workouts other than some marathon pace running and long runs, uh, and 33 miles a week, I know that if I get you up to 55 and give you workouts, that it's gonna be it's gonna be big. So, and
Yep.
that time will come, man. That time will come. Um, so what was your, out of curiosity, what was your favorite workout to get? Was it just like workouts in a long run? 'Cause I think we did that once or twice, or was it just tempos or some of that faster like mile repeat stuff? Did you have like a favorite among them or something you kind of lean towards?
I like just the straight up tempo, like, get a warm up in and go do, whatever it was,
Hmm.
30 minutes at, you know, a threshold pace or, yeah, I like just doing it. I mean, I did like the repeat stuff, but it was like, what I didn't like about it is you had to like be aware, you know what I mean? Like, oh crap, all right, I'm at that distance and I got to do this. And so there's like too much mental. I like the idea of like, all right, just go out and do this. Like, all right,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely harder to wrap your head around when there's like a bunch of different elements.
Yeah. So, but and I like the idea of just like putting my head down and just going after it. So,
Mhm.
I'm totally all in with like that fast stuff. Just start it up and go.
Yeah, you're truly a strength-based runner at heart. Is like the one thing I picked up on almost right away in your training, and especially towards the end. It was clear to me like you're a very strong runner, endurance based, like endurance wise, you have it. Like you have a really good endurance, like stamina base. But and like you always did really good in those longer like workouts, like the tempos you mentioned, and like your long runs. You had some really good long runs, especially towards the end. I remember like the one long run you did, was it like 12-mile warm up and then 8 miles at marathon pace and then a couple cool down or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
We only did, and that's something I want to integrate this next training block whenever we train for the next one is incorporating them workouts during the long run because
Yeah.
and I even said to you like, dude, it was easier for me to run them, that pace. Once I hit mile 12, it was like 12 to 18,
Hmm.
uh, as opposed to if you just told me to go and run that pace. Like
Yeah.
like it was easier. Like once I got 12 miles in, I felt like good and steady and warmed up. And I came back from that workout like, oh, this is awesome. And it was, and the long runs can get like long. If you're just doing
Mhm.
easy long runs, you're just trotting along. And it
Yeah.
was cool to break it up. Okay, I'm just trotting along. Once I hit 12, then I'm doing this. Once I hit 18, then I'm doing this. And it kind of broke it up and made it like shorter,
Yeah.
shorter goals. So I
Yeah.
definitely want to incorporate more of them. And I think there's obviously a lot, Jacob, to improve upon as far as training with me, and not to improve, but to continue to add. Once
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
build, because off season I typically would like really back it down, like treadmill work, do like 20, 25, maybe bump 30 at the max miles a week. And I'm seeing now like this off season can be like more of a avenue to continue to improve
Mhm.
versus just kind of resting and resting. Like you could still
Yeah.
rest, recover, and improve your fitness. So I'm excited for it.
Absolutely. Me too, man. Me too. Yeah. I mean, I think I would definitely, like you said, I think we should do more long run workouts. And that was something that I thought about doing this first block, but I kind of wanted to throw you more just like traditional inner week workouts instead of like weekend long run workouts, just to see how your body would handle them. Because that was the thing that you had never done before. And you had done some marathon pace work and long runs before. So nonetheless, though, I think in the future we can definitely implement more long run workouts. Maybe instead of just like once the entire block, I could throw you one every like 2 weeks or something. So like one week we'll have you do your workouts in the middle of the week, and then the next week we'll have you do like one in the middle of the week on like a Wednesday or whatever works for you, and then your long run you'll do a workout on that too. Um, I think that's probably how I would structure it in the future. I think that'll really help to complement your your strength, which is clearly just like grinding, like long efforts, which is always important to complement the strengths. But on the other hand, I think throughout the training, I saw a lot of room for improvement in the like more progressive workouts where like you're kind of working down the paces a lot. I felt like you did good in them, but I think there's still room for improvement there. And so that's something I want to touch upon a little bit more in the next block, as well as just like this off season. I think turnover is something we can work on, like just working at more like 10K, 5K specific workouts, because this is like a really good opportunity to just build some speed in the off season and attack some races. So that's one thing that I'd probably incorporate more of, is like some faster end workouts where I'm throwing you, like 1K repeats, like repeats of 1200 and down to like even like 200s, like just some quick 200s. I think it could go a long way actually. And I know to you it might sound weird, like how is that going to help me in the marathon? But it can really help, I've found, to make your marathon efforts just feel like a lot easier. Going off like going from running, let's say, a 1935K to like running 7-minute miles or 7:05-minute miles. That's going to feel way easier knowing that you've run a 1935K under your belt,
Yep.
than just like continuing with only base work, only strength. So I think we could take advantage of that this off season. I think that was my plan for you. Um, just will get your turnover going a little bit better, and you'll still have a really strong base. I mean, I think for me, the thought was that, these first 2 weeks, we'll just have you alternate runs every other day. I think I told you like Wednesday or Thursday you could start running again, which would be like 10 days off, which is honestly like a little intense. Like I think I'd probably more advise at least 2 weeks fully off with like maybe cross training in the second week. But at the time last week, you said you might have wanted to do Harrisburg. Like we were talking about entertaining that idea, which would be
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
marathon about 3 weeks out from now, a little less, for those listening. And we entertained the idea, but I think overall we realized that was probably, um, like you could have done it and you probably would PR. But I think it's going to pay dividends to just be a little slower getting back into it and get strong for the next block. Um,
Yeah.
what do you think about that
Yeah.
overall?
Yeah. And I think early on, yeah, your first thought is, oh man, like I need to take some time off. But then if you didn't hit your goal, I think all of us are like, oh man, I need to get that goal. I need to get that goal. And I live right outside Harrisburg, so it's coming up in 3 weeks. I think I have some friends who are doing it. And so my wife even put the idea in my head. She's like, you know what you should do? You're already trained, just keep going a little longer and do Harrisburg. And I entertained it last week throughout the week. I was like, you know what? Yeah, that'd be awesome. I'm gonna do it. And then as I get comfortable just in the off season now, like I had some time off, I'm like, oh my gosh, because let's be honest, like once you start, that training, for a marathon, you have a goal, like your mind shifts, right? And you kind of get into that like warrior mode, like, all right, like I got a goal, I need to defeat it, I need to conquer it, and you're on. And
Mhm.
the switch has just been turned off now for 10 days, and it's just going to take too much, and
Yeah.
I'm not willing to turn it back on. And in addition, like I'm thinking long term here, like
Mhm.
my goal is to really do great in my next marathon, which I don't know what it's going to be yet, but sometime in the spring. So I think this time off now is going to set me up for better success in the future.
Mhm.
Um, so that goal will come with the work. I'm not concerned about it. So just being patient. And isn't that the marathon? You got
Yeah.
to be in the moment. You got to be patient. So yeah, that's
Yeah.
where I'm at now with it. So I'm committed now to just enjoy some more rest and work my way back into this
Yeah.
training here.
Yeah. If you want to take this week entirely off too, like I'm cool with that. Because 10 days is like a little short. Granted, obviously I think your body didn't go through quite the toll it would have if you had been able to exert yourself fully. Obviously you had the cramping, which kind of held you back a little. So, that's something to take in consideration. That's kind of why I said maybe you could start as early as this Wednesday, 10 days out, because you didn't put your body quite through the physical toll you might have, if the race went a little differently. So, you could start Wednesday or Thursday if you wanted, but it's up to you. You could definitely just take this week fully off and like do some cross training and strength work. that would be fine too. So whatever you end up wanting to do is fine with me, man.
Awesome.
Um, and yeah, like I'll just talk you through my thought. Like the next for this off season, I think the next 2 weeks, it's just about getting your legs moving again, refamiliarizing yourself with some, running, but like shorter runs, not really anything crazy, and just like focusing on cross training and strength work, which I know you mentioned the strength work you want to focus more on. So that'll definitely be something we could look more into this training block, trying to just get like 2 or 3 days a week where you can get even as short as a 10-minute session in of just doing like basic stuff like squats, lunges, glute bridges, like all these basic things. That's stuff that I leave to you because you're a PT, like I think that's one thing that I like about coaching is I know that you'll do the stuff in the background, like you know what to do, you know what you should do. So I feel like I don't need to quite bother you too much on that. Like you can do that for yourself. So
Yeah.
if you want me to provide you like some strength stuff, I can. I have read books and stuff, but I feel like you're probably somewhat familiar with that territory. I would assume, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's one of those things like I know what I need to do, but it's just about doing it. And patients come into the clinic, and I love treating runners. I try to promote myself to get as many runners as I can in the door to help them be better. And I
Mhm.
always think of like, yeah, I always tell them like you got to think of the run as like, okay, this is like a gift that I get to do. This is something that I can't take for granted, and you need to invest in it. Like you can't just say I'm going to go run. You need to invest in the run. So how do you invest in it? You make sure that you're taking care of the things that allow you to run. So like the mobility, and that's the number one thing I see in people who have injuries. They're just tight as hell because let's
Mhm.
be honest, us runners and we run, right? That's what we do. Like,
Yeah.
what do you do to work out? I'm gonna go run. I'm gonna go run because one, I think that's what we just think like, okay, that's how I improve with running, and two, it becomes our comfort pattern. Like, okay, that's like I feel comfortable with running. I know how to do it. But we need to invest in our bodies in a way that allows us to continue to do that, continue to
Mhm.
improve. And I think mobility, which that's something I actually am very on top of. Like every night I do some stretch and I do foam rolling every day because I notice like if I just do that like one day and I miss a day, like I notice I would go out for my run, I just like, oh man, I just don't feel as smooth.
Mhm.
But the strengthening is kind of the next component, and that's something I haven't done any, and that's terrible for me to even say because I'm telling other people that, right? Um, so I know I need to add that, and I think strength, that simple, like you said, Jake, just like that 10, 15, 20 minutes of strength training a couple of days a week,
Yeah.
like that's going to go a long way. One, to keep injuries away, but two, to improve performance.
Yeah.
And then cross training stuff. Like I have never done any cross training, any alternate like cardiovascular stuff. So
Mhm.
um, my wife has a Peloton. She was a spinning instructor for a while. She did some biking, so she's been on my butt for a long time. Like, hey, you should do this. And so I was like, all right. Last week I was like, Megan, order me some Peloton shoes, whatever they are. Just get them for me. So she got me some. They're sitting in my kitchen right now in their box still. That they came in from Amazon. So I need to get them out and then start adding some like
There you go.
some more supplemental work here to the mix. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that'll be huge, and I don't think like I don't foresee me ever like wanting to do 7 days a week anytime soon in terms of running. So it's good to have that day off to either just take fully off or focus like do some cross training like with the Peloton. So that can be up to you week by week if you want to do that. But it's a way to just add like a little bit of additional stimulus to your week in terms of building the fitness. Um, so after those first couple weeks, I thought the next 6 weeks could just be like us working you back to maybe 45 miles a week. Like nothing too crazy. I think the off season, we don't need to hit like 55 a week by any means, but like being in that 45 to 50 range for a good bit of time could be huge. And I don't think it'll feel quite as intimidating to you now that you've done this last block. Um, we could do just like 40 if you want, but really like working around 40 to 45, and then we'll take a down week around on the 6th week. I'm thinking, and then after that, then the remainder of the off season will just be like throwing you tempos and fartleks and hills, building that strength, and then when we get closer to like a peak race, we'll have you choose like I'd like if you chose like a race that you'd want to do good at. Like if it was like one of the winter road running series ones, just like tell me that's your peak race. That's the one you want to run like your fastest time at, or the one you care the most about, because that'll allow me to structure the plan around that. That's usually how I do it too. I always want to hear like what's your peak race first, because that allows me to reverse engineer the whole plan. But yeah, well, like we're just gonna build strength, and then when we get closer to your race, I'm gonna start throwing you more like 5K, 10K geared workouts, just to sharpen the edges, get the turnover going a little bit more, since you'll have the strength already from the training prior to that. So it'll really just be about getting the turnover going and getting some more race specific work in before you try to rip like a 10K or a 5K or whatever you distance you end up wanting to do. I know that the Winter Road Running Series has a lot of the 5K and 10K races. So just let me know what you want to do, and I'll be able to kind of like tailor those last few weeks leading into the race to make sure that we get you some proper speed workouts. And I think
Yeah.
that'll be fun too, to see how you do with like more like faster workouts, because like I don't think have you done anything like that before?
No, no,
Yeah.
not at them paces.
Yeah, so I think that'll be fun. I think it seems like, I don't know, based on the last block, it seemed like you were enjoying just like doing different stuff. So I'm hoping that you at least somewhat enjoy it. I think a lot of people really like the faster stuff, myself included. So we'll see. We'll see
Yeah,
how you like it. But either way, I think it can be really beneficial to you to work on your speed a little bit more. So that's kind
I
of
agree.
like that was my thoughts in terms of the planning structure. And obviously, like I'll throw it all in a doc and send it to you. And I'll probably make a proper plan in some time. But for now, I think it's just about gauging how you're feeling and taking things week by week. Um, but yeah, once we find a peak race for you, then I'll be able to like complete the plan, and we should be good. Um,
Perfect. I like that idea. I think that's
cool.
great.
Awesome. And in terms of goal setting for the off season, what 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 did you where was your head at with that? What do you kind of want to accomplish? What is your goals for this off season?
I think one I want to build just continue to build on my strong base and strong base and cardiovascular and strength and you know all that stuff. And I think it's like another goal of mine, like I referenced earlier, is off season I would typically lose fitness, and then I'd be building back up, and I was constantly on this big slow.
Mhm.
This I would obviously I'm going to lose some fitness probably, but I would like to just kind of like maintain a high level of fitness versus previously.
Mhm.
So I'm taking a step forward once I hit this next marathon training block and being ready to go. Um, that's probably it though. Really,
Mhm.
yeah. I
Yeah,
don't want to lose fitness.
yeah. I mean, we can make that happen, man. I think the off season's a great opportunity to not like crush it out of the park. I think it's like a good time to wind down a little bit. You don't want to try to maintain peak fitness all year round. That's just too much on the body. So it's good to have a period of time where you're still like gonna get workouts. We're still gonna give you workouts and stuff, and you'll still be working a little bit, but it's not gonna be anything that tears you down. It's just gonna be stuff that complements your life and allows you to be really strong going into, a spring training block. So that's the whole idea. And would you have any goals? Did you have any times in mind for like a 5K or 10K if you want to pursue that or not?
Not really specifically, but I know it's been a long time since I ran it. It's been a year and a half since I ran a 5K or 10K. So, but
Okay.
I know like a 5K I never broke under 20, which is just crazy to me. Like I don't
Mhm.
know how I never have, but I haven't, and I know I can easily hit that now based on my training.
Yeah.
So I definitely would like to get better in them shorter distances.
Mhm. Yeah. I have some times in mind. I think that you could probably run in a 5K, 10K with like proper training. Just like based on, I don't know if, do you know like the Jack Daniels VDOT calculator?
I don't know.
Okay. It's a really handy tool online that you can basically just like put in a PR that you think reflects your like current level of ability. So I threw in your like half PR where you ran 129.20, and it spits back like equivalent race times for other distances where
Okay.
like, so if I put in a 129.20 half in, and it says that okay, you could run a 5K at 1928, which is what it said actually for you.
Okay.
That would mean that if you had an equivalent level of race specificity and training for the 5K as you did for the half, you would be able to run that time. Like if you had the same level of training in terms of intensity and duration, you could run that time. That's kind of what that means. So, I think we could be somewhat ambitious with the 5K goal if you want to like prioritize. What do you care? What do you care more towards, like 10K or 5K? It doesn't really matter.
I think the 5K is more prevalent. It's because I mean, obviously that's a more popular distance for people.
Yeah,
It's easier to
yeah,
find a 5K race than a 10K.
yeah.
So I think getting into the teens in that 5K is more important to me than a 10K
Okay.
distance.
All right. There we go. That's what we'll go for then, man. We'll try to shoot somewhere at least under 20, but I think we could probably try to go for like mid 19s. Um, and I think that would be a reasonable goal. So, yeah.
Great.
Cool. Last little section here.
Yeah.
When did you start bodybuilding?
Oh, bodybuilding. So,
Yeah.
um, in, I always was an athlete growing up. My main sport was wrestling, and with wrestling, my dad was like my coach growing up, and he would always, lift weights with me. But we'd have weights in the basement, and we would lift, and I always had like a strong foundation with me. I had broader shoulders, and I was a littler guy, so if I had a little muscle, it made me look, bigger than maybe a taller guy. So I was always into weightlifting as a supplement for my sports I did. And then as I got into 10th grade, I got burnt out of wrestling. I mean, I started wrestling when I was probably 4, so once I
Oof.
hit, yeah, it was, so a long time wrestling. And once I hit 10th grade, after I wrestled that year, I was like, you know what, I'm done. And I just started lifting weights still because I always enjoyed it. And I started to get bigger. Obviously that's, you grow when you lift weights. And it just so happened that my father, he did some like construction, he was in the construction business and everything, and he went to a gentleman's house to do some work, and he saw trophies on his mantle, and they were bodybuilding trophies, and it turned out this guy was former Mr. Pennsylvania,
Wow.
like a little like in pretty recent, like it was like a year or two ago that he won that, so he was still competing and pretty big guy. And he told him, he's like, hey, my son's always loved working out and loved bodybuilding, and like, can I connect him with you? And so that's what he did. And I called him, and I went to a Gold's Gym in the area, and that's where he worked out as a trainer as well as like the manager there. And I just started to do training sessions with him every now and then. And he kind of started writing me out plans just like you would for for marathon training. And I started to follow them. And he was like, "You want to do a show?" And I was like, "What? A bodybuilding show?" And he's like, "Yeah." I was like, "I'm not even big." And at the time I think it was in 11th grade when I did my first bodybuilding show. He was like, "They have weight classes, man." Like, and I was like, "Oh, all right." So I was a bantamweight my first bodybuilding show, and a bantamweight it was like 142 pounds. So
Wow. Okay.
I was shredded, but there wasn't much muscle on me. But anyway, that was my first kind of like introduction. And these worlds like simulate here, like bodybuilding and marathon. They're like exactly the same thing when it comes to preparing and training. It's just different spectrums.
Yeah.
And I started to, obviously get hooked. You do your first show, like, wow, like I leaned out pretty good. I looked pretty good. I know I can get bigger in the off season, and then I can cut down. And I know these things I can do to get even, tighter. I know these adjustments to my diet. And then so after my senior year, I competed at lightweight, which is 153 pounds, I think, at the time. And then I continued to do that through college and continue to grow, continue to see improvements. And I got to 100 and I got to middleweight, and I competed like at 170. I was in the low end of middleweight, so it's probably like 168. I think the limit's 176 or something.
Mm.
And then my final kind of hurrah was, I was finishing up college. I was starting my work, and I got up to 230 pounds.
That's
And
insane.
got up to 230, and that was my goal. I want to hit that 230 mark. I want to hit it. And I started cutting back down. I cut down 176 pounds. I just made the deadline for middleweight, and I went to Pittsburgh, and I competed in the MPC Pennsylvania State Championship. In the novice category, I won my middleweight, and I won the overall. So
Nice, dude.
Claim to fame would be the novice Mr. Pennsylvania. And then I competed in the Open as well, and I believe I won the middleweight in that as well, but I didn't win the overall. So for those of you who don't know, there's weight classes in the bodybuilding, and then you compete against your peers in each weight class. And you got the bigger guys, you got the littler guys, and then at the end, the winner from each weight class kind of goes on stage together. The judges judge you, and the idea is it isn't necessarily how big you are; it's how symmetrical you are, how shredded you look. Does everything kind of like compose and to match each other? But anyway, I didn't win the overall of the whole competition, but I was really happy with my results. And after that, I got away from it because it was just a matter of priorities of life. Bodybuilding is one of those things that it's about me all the time. Like I need to eat every 2 hours, 2 to 3 hours. I need to go to the gym every day, spend at least 3 hours at the gym, and you're on the schedule and regimen. It ended up being, Pat, do you want a successful bodybuilding career or do you want a successful marriage?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and some people can do it. I can't. And so I stepped away from bodybuilding and just started lifting weights for fun at that point.
Wow.
Yeah, and so I did that for about 8 years, and then and this is a funny thing my wife loves to tell people is like we had a dog at the time when I was competing, and my wife wanted me to go walk the dog with her, and I told her no, I'm not walking the dog. It's too much cardio. Like I can't lose any of this muscle. Like so my wife is always amazed. Like she always tells people this. Like yeah, he runs marathons now, but you should have seen him 10 years ago. He wouldn't even walk a dog with me. and yeah, it's wild to think what I was into then and what I'm into now. But it's along the same line as far as you have a goal, you commit to it, you train, you put in the effort, and you get a result based on your training. So
yeah, that's so cool, dude. Like for those listening, I didn't know Patrick was a bodybuilder in the past when I started coaching him. I don't know if it ever came up in when you were treating my injuries, but yeah, I didn't know that at the time, and and I only learned after the race. You were like, yeah, I was 230 at one point. I was like, oh my gosh, dude, that's crazy,
yeah,
man. That's crazy. Do you have pictures of that?
Oh yeah,
dude.
I got
Can you
pictures.
send me a picture?
Yeah, I'll send you some pictures.
Oh, let's go, dude. I
I
want
have
to see
something
that.
even better than a picture. I had a patient years ago. This is the fun thing about working in healthcare. You meet so many different types of people and you connect with them. I had this patient who I had when I was competing, and she asked me, she's like, "Oh, you bodybuild?" I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "Can you? I see pictures." Like, all right. And I showed her pictures. Like, "Can I paint it?" And I was like, "What?" She's like, "Can I paint a picture of this of you?" And I was like, it's kind of strange. I was like, I was like, "But okay." She's like, "I'm gonna take this picture." All right, so this lady left. Like she's a patient. She left, and I forgot all about her. She came back a year later. She had a freaking canvas, an oil painted canvas, man. I mean, it's huge, and it was me. It was me posing, and I have it at home.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, so I keep telling people because that's the thing people always ask me. You have pictures? I keep telling people at work like I'm gonna bring this canvas painting in and we're gonna hang it in the clinic. I'm gonna put it on the wall.
So you put it on the wall.
Yeah, patients are gonna be like, "Who's this guy?" Because it looks nothing like
You're
me
like, yeah,
now.
that's me. So you're gonna be like, what?
Yeah, yep. So
Dude, that's hilarious. Oh my gosh.
yep.
That's incredible. Dude, send me the picture of the canvas. That's awesome.
All right, I'll send you some pictures, man. I got you.
Where do you have it in your house?
I don't even. It's in my basement somewhere.
It's in your
my
basement.
Wife, there's no way my wife would let me hang that thing up, man. Yeah, I was honestly, and I often forget about it, and then I go down there and I'm like looking for something in the basement, like, oh my gosh, that freaking thing. Yeah.
Dude, that's incredible. That's awesome. All right, we'll get into a fun section here, and then we'll let you go because it has been an hour 15 with the technical difficulties.
I know. Yeah,
but you said 10:30, right? You said 10:30. You gotta. We'll get you out of here soon, so it's no problem. What out of curiosity, what tunes did you listen to on race day? Because you had your headphones in.
I had headphones in, and honestly, I think once I got into that pain area, I didn't even hear what was going on in my ears. But I love hip hop music, and for this, I'm a faith-based man. I had some like Christian hip hop on, so kind of get me pumped up and keep me kind of focused on, on God during that moment. So I was listening to that. Yep.
That's awesome. Cool.
Yeah.
So what's your favorite race distance and what's your least favorite?
Favorite race distance?
Yeah.
I love the marathon. It's my favorite distance because of the mental work it takes to get there.
Yeah.
The least favorite, I would probably say, I'll probably say like a 5K. Like I
Okay.
perform better.
Yeah.
I personally perform better at the longer distances.
hmm
Um,
hmm
yeah,
Cool. Okay. Um, all right, you're gonna choose one or the other. So it's I'll just give you two options and you'll tell me what
yep.
your preference is. Split shorts or half tights?
I love half tights, man. I love them.
There you go.
I love tights. And one of the things I look forward to in the winter is I get to wear my running tights. I love them.
Dude, they're so comfortable, right?
They're so comfy and they keep
Yeah.
me so warm. I love them.
Oh, they're nice. Running hat or no hat?
I always have some sort of hat on because my hair, I don't really grow much hair on my head now. So I usually have a bandana on actually during the
Yeah.
I have a bandana on during the summer months and warmer months, and then as soon as it's like, gets in the 50s, 40s, then I'll start to throw on a cap or something.
Yeah, dude, you rock that Eagles bandana.
Yeah, heck
That
yeah,
one's
go
that
birds.
one's sick. Go birds, man. Long runs or workouts?
Um, go back and forth to that. It previously was long runs, but I
Mhm.
would say with getting some of this workout, like I like it. I get geared up for it, and then after I'm done a workout, I'm like, oh yes, you kind of get that post race feeling after a really good workout.
Mm.
Yeah,
Hills or flats?
I like hills. Where I live, there's a lot of like hills, and I like running hills.
Okay. Lots of kudos giving or selective kudos giving on Strava.
If I know you, I give it to you. I just go through and give it to everybody. Yep.
Music or no music on runs?
Um, Back and forth.
Mm.
Depends. If I'm coming home after a long day, like I like no music and just go in because I need to just shut off. But if I get up early in the morning to go for a run, I like to just throw something in. And a lot of the
Yeah.
times I end up listening to like podcasts.
Okay.
You know?
That's what I was gonna ask. Podcast or music, if you had to
Yeah, I like
choose.
listening. So then I tell myself, wow, like I'm improving on my fitness and I'm improving on my mental aspects as well because I'll listen to something educational or
Mhm.
something leadership oriented.
Cool. Cool.
Yeah,
Sunday or Saturday long runs?
definitely Saturday, Sundays. Like I need to rest,
Yeah.
and there's been a couple times where I can't get into Saturday and I get it in Sunday. Then I go into work Monday and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so tired. So Saturday 100.
Yeah, I agree, 100%. Last one, training or racing?
I love training. I love the process. I love and I think that's part of my problem. Like I need to start doing more. I don't do a lot of races, so I think I need to start training by doing races in a way. But yeah, I just love the process of going out there, building slowly back towards my goals.
Cool. All right, that's it, man. Thanks for coming on, dude. That was fun. That was
Yeah,
a fun chat.
yeah,
And
great.
I'll let me know when you what peak race you want to do, or we'll call it your peak race. It's just the one you want to do your best at, if you had to choose. So let me know, and I'll start making you a training plan. We should be good to go. But yeah, that's all I have for us today. So thank you so much for coming on, dude.
Yeah, man, for sure. Yeah, I'll get all that information to you. Yeah, appreciate the time. Appreciate having me on here. Thank you.
Cool. Awesome. All right, dude. I'll catch you around, Pat.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.